gosh. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Kia ora. Get to
Much
Piakoi. There we go.
There you are. Good morning, man.
That was Be Well. How are you?
I was about to say that if this was a test, then my comprehension wasn't very good. My hearing was okay.
Kia ora is a greeting, but transliterates to be well, which is, yeah. It's like, what does hello mean? Yeah. Are we all here?
He's waiting for Lucas. Said he was going to pop in.
Oh.
It's been a long day and I'm exhausted. I don't know if I'll make it the whole hour, but
All right.
But I wanted to.
Well, I predict that you will.
Well, we'll see.
Well, do you have something you want to talk about, Mike? So we have a list of things a growing list, and make sure we do you first.
I don't have anything that I need to talk about other than there's still some PHP 8.1 issues that Alex wanted me to take a look at that I haven't had time to do yet.
Yeah, every time I update the 9.3.x branch, I see that 90% of the issues fixed have to do with PHP 8.1.
Yeah.
It must be a huge job. Are they mostly easy, or are some of them very hard?
Well, I don't know. There was just that one that he wanted me to look at that, it doesn't look hard. It just opens up a can of worms and shows that because of some way that we were not returning the right thing from a method somewhere, that it kind of revealed a deeper bug or deeper bad smell in the code that we should probably fix. But I haven't had a chance to dig into it completely and look at all the ramifications. So.
Well, for an agenda, one, I would like to spend a few minutes acknowledging that Victoria is now a core committer.
Scary, eh?
No, not at all.
Right, so now you outrank us all. And
that's unfair. I just have different skill set. There's no way I could outrank you guys in other areas, it's just, and this just means I have more power to screw up. That's what I keep looking at it as.
And the other thing, I think we should try to resist the urge to vent, but talk about our plan forward for Drush integration.
Oh, yes.
Well, if you don't want me to vent, you might want to wait till I decide I'm going to go take a nap.
Well, okay, so that's one thing to talk about. What else do you want to talk about? The issue that you have to do, that Alex Pot asked help for, Mike, is there anything I can do that would help?
No, I don't think so. I'm only mentioning it to remind myself that it's on my list and I need to do it. I'm supposed to be on vacation next week, so maybe I'll have time.
Okay. Are there any other issues or, big picture stuff we need to deal with?
Probably should talk about D6 again.
Oh, okay. What about D6? Okay.
Oh, I don't know. We came up with a plan last time and then didn't do anything towards it. So I don't know how to get the things started on that.
All right. Oh, yeah. That rings the bell. Where's the issue for that? Something.
Well, I don't know if we want to get too far into it while we're still discussing the agenda, but my recollection was that we agreed not to do anything about it just yet.
I know. I can't find the issue for the life of me. Actually, one thing I'd like to talk about, or actually get fixed, really, is we get serialization errors in the tests. And it really puts me off from working on issues because it's such a pain in the neck. But I don't know how to fix it. So I'm kind of a chicken and an egg thing for myself.
Is it intermittent test failures like across the board on DO right now?
No, it's not intermittent. I can create them. And,
Oh.
instead of getting an error about what the real bug is, the exception it just becomes a serial. Oh gosh, yeah, that word on closure error. So I have to use the debugger and figure out where exactly the right exception's coming from, and then see it and go, oh, now I know how to fix it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how to change that one either, because that is obviously you're trying to serialize something that's not serializable, but you get those from time to time. I thought we fixed most of them.
No, not for my
Been a while. I haven't dug into it in a little while.
Well, I think the question is when you're writing a test and you have a brain fart and do something that breaks stuff, it can generate that exception. And is there any way to catch those exceptions and generate a more useful error message?
Yeah. I'd have to see an example, probably. Like if it's a general thing where a test is failing and not getting the proper error, then there's something wrong with Drupal's error handler. It should be. I'd have to dig into it and see. It is probably something I could understand, but I'd need to see an example
of. Okay.
That and actually step through it with the debugger and try and see what's getting caught and what's thrown, and if the error handler should look for something and try to find a previous error or something like that.
So I guess that's
sounds like that's something. I mean, it doesn't sound like a migration issue. It sounds like that's something that's thrown when the test is closing, like in Symfony when it's shutting everything down because there was a failure. It's probably again trying to log something that it can't by serializing an object that isn't serializable, and so you end up seeing that error instead of whichever one kicked it out of the test in the first place. I'd have to step through it and see.
Well, for what it's worth, I'll put the URL for that issue in Slack channel for this. You can add that to your list, Mike.
Adding to the list is easy.
And for the sake of the recording, since we are recording this meeting,
yes.
The issue number is 3197324.
Yeah.
So let's get started. Victoria, would you like to say a few words about your new role, or how it's going to affect your work on the migration system? Is this something where we have to start picking up the slack because you don't have time for us anymore?
Okay. I'm still learning the role. It's Jess has walked me through when she made a release and stuff. It's just a lot to learn. And I'm still getting my head around all the things you have to know. And then, of course, reading the new channels I have to read and stuff like that. So I'm in the stage of it's a big learning curve. That's why I said scary earlier. How it will affect Migrate, I don't see a whole lot because I happen to be a person with lots of free time. So I don't envision that. I haven't been very active lately because just life here. And right now my partner's sick, so it's a bit up and down.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's going to the hospital soon. Doctor. Which is always fun here because, well, I don't know how it is in other parts of the world, but with our higher alert levels for the Delta variant of COVID, just going to see your GP is interesting. And the problem also is that he actually has a chest infection, which everybody freaks out about because, oh no. But fortunately, we live in a part of the country where there's nothing in the community. But still, all the precautions are there. So it's not easy for him just to pop in the car and go to the doctor. There's extra steps. So that aside, I don't see anything different. And I don't. Oh, one thing I should say, I don't see it as a way to ask core committers to do stuff for us, particularly because I don't want to mix those roles up. I don't want to abuse my position to nudge them any more than I nudge them now. Put it that way, or that we as a community nudge them to look at an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see that. We had no problem nudging them before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm usually pretty shy about nudging them too hard. I would appreciate it if you could sort of just give us information, like sometimes we see the RTBC list piling up.
Yeah.
If you could give any feedback about what's going on and how long that's going to last when it happens, that would be appreciated.
Okay.
So anyway, congratulations and thank you. Or I guess my usual line for things like this is that I don't know whether to give you congratulations or condolences. But I envy you having enough time to devote to this sort of thing, enough free time.
Thank you.
And I expect you'll manage fine. What do we want to talk about next?
Well, we should wait for Lucas for the Drush stuff. So let's just mention D6 and find that issue and see where we left it.
Right. Well, Benji was saying maybe we did decide we weren't going to do it until D10. We'll deprecate D10 and remove D11. Now that he said that, I'm thinking maybe that was what we decided.
I mean, sort of more generically than that, my thought was that it would be a whole lot of work to pick apart the Drupal 6 and Drupal 7 components and move one of them to a contrib module.
Awful,
and that would be, in the long run, that's totally wasted effort.
Mm-hmm. Here.
So I don't want to have to do that. I don't want to have to remove support for Drupal 6 until I can also remove support for Drupal 7. And whether that's going to be Drupal 10 or 11 or 12, I don't know.
Right.
But when it comes, it comes. And so I'm not worried about not having done anything about it yet.
Yeah, it's certainly not a high priority. I mean, it's not hurting anything. And I mean, it's a little bit of extra maintenance, but not much.
There's someone made a contrib module for it, though, for the Drupal 6 to put it into. We should comment on there.
Was it me?
I think so, Mike, but I can't find it. I can't find anything today.
I don't remember if I made one or thought about making one. Let me look. Let me see if I'm a manager of a migrate Drupal 6. I don't know. We could close it.
Oh, there it is. I found it. I think. Oh, no, that's something else.
No, I did make a migrate Drupal 6 module that doesn't have anything in it.
Okay. So why don't we just change that to, I can edit it apparently, to say Drupal 6 and 7. And then put a blurb in there that the plan is to do that. And then we just have to suffer dealing with Drupal 6 errors, migration errors, until it all goes away.
That's fine.
You happy with that, Benji?
Yeah. So just keeping Drupal 6 and Drupal 7 together is the plan.
Yeah. So the short name on that module is migrate Drupal 6. So I don't know if we want to not use this one and create a new one. I mean, I can change the title.
Okay, what's the title we would like, ideally?
Well, so one question is do we essentially move the whole, we can't, it's more than just that though. I was going to say we could just move the migrate Drupal module out and reuse that namespace in contrib, but there's so much code that supports it that's all throughout core that couldn't be in core anymore, that or shouldn't, some of it could be staying in core, but some of it really shouldn't. There's a whole lot of organization that needs to be figured out around that. So I don't know yet. We probably don't have to make one right now. We probably just have to. We'll just, at some point, I'll delete this project, or if I can.
Okay, so how about we find out if we can delete that and get rid of this whole project. I'll find the old Drupal 6 issue or make a new one and put down what you just said, that we're going to move it all in one go.
I don't think I can delete a project, but I can get one of the Drupal Association guys to do it, or somebody else has access.
Lucas, you seem to have joined us, but you are muted.
I do like the fact of using the name Migrate Drupal for it. If it's not available. Yeah, I think that would be nice. Makes it clear.
Yeah. Again, the catch to that is there might be stuff in Migrate Drupal that we do want to keep in core, and we have to manage that too. I don't know off the top of my head. Do we have the Drupal 8 sources stored in Migrate Drupal? Probably. That might be something we need to keep.
Good point. You're right. It is.
The only source for Drupal 8 is the content entity.
It's not true.
Which is used for follow-up migrations.
There's also a config source. And there's even an issue to make it better. Right. Beef up the config 8 source. Yeah.
Well, we got time to think about it and talk about this. I don't know if that stuff needs to be in core either, though. Like,
is my volume better now?
We can hear you, Lucas.
Okay, I was talking there. I was like, hey, hi.
If the if the preferred way to get data out of Drupal 8 Plus is JSON API, maybe it's better implemented in a different way. I don't know. I don't know at this moment, but I think we can agree with, just like we said last time, we don't have to do anything about it right now. It's a project for at least Drupal 10, if not later.
Yeah, I'll just make sure it's recorded somewhere, the right issue, which I think. Right. Oh, there it is. Deprecate Drupal 6 migration sources in Drupal 9 and remove from Drupal 10 to contrib. Yeah, I finally found the issue.
Needs issue summary update.
Thanks for the input. All right. Okay. All right. I'll do that one. That's assigned to me. I'll take care of it.
Vicky, I don't think I had a chance to say congratulations in person since you joined the release management team. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. In summary of what I said earlier, I'm still in the stage of learning a lot, and it's still quite scary.
Learning a lot happens every day.
Well, just being able to commit is one level of scary, and then having to put out a release is a whole other level of scary. I've watched Jess do it from across the table. I would not want to be her.
Yeah, it's quite.
I had a high-stress job for a while, and they would be like, "Oh, you're losing millions of dollars in a minute or something because of some system being down." And after a few years of that, you kind of just have to live with yourself anyways, and so you're just like, yeah, whatever, let me go get a coffee break, I'll be back in a second.
Million here, million there.
I mean, you just have to be able to at some point just hit commit and say oops if
yes,
quick follows. I'll fix that on my next commit.
Yeah.
No, I asked on my company Slack if anyone would go to a session at a conference with the following description: how to stop making mistakes. The
Ooh.
only way to stop making mistakes is to stop being human. If
Right.
that is
Yeah.
not an option for you, here are some other possibilities to consider. Learn from your mistakes. Don't make the same mistake twice.
Or at least don't make those twice, like within short succession. Like if it's been 10 years ago, we can kind of forgive you because you slept, a few thousand times since then.
But anyway, for the sake of the recording, the issue to deprecate Drupal 6 migration sources is 3010983. And Lucas, to catch you up, we had a few points on the agenda. One was to congratulate and acknowledge that Victoria is now a core committer release manager. And we already went through that one and you contributed too. The second one was the Drupal 6 migration sources, which we all agreed we shouldn't do anything about until we're also ready to get rid of the Drupal 7 migration sources. The other two things are Drush integration, and we have to resist the urge to vent on that one. And then there was Victoria's issue about serialization failures when tests go the wrong way. Do you have anything you want to add to the agenda, Lucas?
No, that sounds right. I think probably we should do an unrecorded section at the end where we just like, hey, how are you doing? But maybe you already did it at the beginning before I joined.
Yeah, we recorded it.
And I certainly think we should do it again for you, Lucas.
And it's relatively easy to snip out a few minutes at the beginning or the end if you want me to do that. I'm the one in charge of the recording this time around. I'd rather not have to snip things out in the middle.
Just every 34 seconds, just cut that part out. But every sixth 34. Yeah. Let's go over to Drush. We should probably find that thread. Is it in a thread already in Slack? No, I don't see it.
Now, I can probably find the relevant issues. So I guess Moshe felt that we needed a better justification for making the change to Drush core, even though the change was just sort of refactoring, putting argument and option handling in separate hooks.
Is it linked off of the migrate tools issue I just linked in our call here?
Probably. So for the sake of the recording, that's 3213947.
I'm trying to find. Is
I
it
have
in?
open in yet another tab here. Drush core migrate commands and integration, and that's the issue on migrate tools, where Marco and I have already done a lot of work. So at this point, I think I'm ready to just assume we're not going to get cooperation from the Drush maintainers. And I plan to do whatever I need to do, duplicate whatever code I need to duplicate to get Drush commands working in migrate tools.
Which issue or GitHub, is it already closed?
Oh yeah, he closed it.
The pull request was closed about a week ago.
Where is that linked at?
I can drop a link into the chat or Slack. It's probably in one of these comments. Yeah, if you look at comment number 13, no, sorry, never mind, not that one. Here we go, comment 16. I just submitted 2 feature requests for Drush Core.
Okay.
And the second one is the one for which I made a pull request, but the pull request was rejected.
So it's 4820 or 4819?
4820. Provide a way to alter the list of migration IDs in migrate commands. That's the issue on Drush Core, and there's a corresponding pull request.
Yeah,
Pull request is 4826. So anyway, I do plan to duplicate a bunch of code and override commands and such, and get the migration commands working again. In addition, I plan to create aliases or duplicate the commands as something like migrate_tools:import with the abbreviation MTIM instead of migrate imports and MIM. And probably in a future major release of migrate tools, we will stop overriding the ones from Drush Core.
I apologize. I didn't get a chance to jump in and post a comment. I was doing a migration the last 2 weeks. Up till too late in the evening and too early in the morning. I could try to come up with a justification, but I don't know if that would go anywhere. And I haven't had a chance to look through this. The grouping was not so much for grouping of, it was not for tags purposes. It was more for these all share common configuration.
So that much
Was that communicated?
That much works. Migration groups work. You can share configuration within a migration group. And that has nothing to do with the Drush command. That just works.
It's just running or getting the status of all the migrations
So
in a particular group.
Because of that, as a byproduct of the group, if you filter without the group, many times the result will show, it will take a long time to execute a bunch of migrations that group doesn't apply to, and you'll get a big red wall of errors, right?
Right, and Moss's response is essentially, well, every time you make a group, tag every migration in the group with the group name, and then you can just use --tag instead of --group. Which I mean, he's right,
which we can do, but for BC purposes,
right,
we can't just require everyone who's been doing it up until now. Yeah,
well,
there's ways to
looks
run
like,
this.
I mean, we're going to have to be. I mean, because we've now lost the namespace over to Drush Core, and it's not getting in there. So the original command is definitely going to be downgraded. The kind of question is now: do we put the original command back in a different namespace back in migrate tools, which I think we should. If not, replicate all of them again so we can maintain them, and then, somewhere document that the official supported migration tools are in migrate tools and not the ones in Drush core, and try and push people to use the ones that we maintain.
I mean, well, and that's that's beyond what I was thinking. Yeah, it's tricky. Because I think having it in Drush definitely is good. In a way, because it's just available to everyone. But
it would be if we could maintain them, but now we've got Mosh as the doorman for trying to get any fixes in, and he's proven to not be cooperative. So, it's fine. It's his project. He's got every right to do that. But I just don't. What happens when the next time it's a bug, or what happens the next feature that we want to add to a Drush command that we can't, and it's just. I just see it continuing to be a problem every time we, want to adjust something. How many times have we made a change in migrate tools and needed to correspondingly update the Drush command at the same time to fix some bug somewhere, and we've lost that.
Yeah.
I think back to when we were trying to when we were changing the way the ID list stuff worked, and running ID list plus update was flagging all of them as all rows is needing an update, not just the ones it was just a whole thing, and it had to get fixed in a couple of different spots, including the Drush commands, and to not have the ability to do that is not ideal.
Right. So I think the long-term plan is to maintain our own commands. Call them migrate tools, :import, migrate tools, :rollback, and so forth. For the next major version, include both the new namespace and override the old namespace, which is now provided by Drush core.
Well, I don't see that we've got a lot of people moving beyond 10.4 and Drush right now. I think a lot of folks that are using migrate are still stuck because they still want to use it.
So right, and that's why we have to do something, because we can't keep people stuck on Drush 10.3.
Right, and I don't think that a rage quit is really the right path forward either. We really want to work together as a community, and I'm not sure that that's doing what we've just described is really sustainable either. We really need to keep valuing collaboration over forking
competition
here. Yeah, there's a lot of great work that they're doing into the Drush core pieces that we would love to enhance. Maybe I'm just being a little bit too rosy-eyed here, but I would not give up yet. I think we need to keep at it.
Well, you're right. Collaboration and working together would be better. I think Benji and I have tried that and gotten nowhere. If you would like to try that, you maybe know Mosh better than either of us do. Maybe you will make some inroads where we failed. We cannot give up yet, but we also kind of need to just figure out what that point is to where,
I don't know what that point is either. And
I think Benji and I are there, but for me at least, I'll admit there's some emotion driving that, so I'm happy to sit back and let cooler heads prevail. I don't see that there that there'll be a way forward if we have if every bug fix and everything that we want to touch on those commands is going to be a drawn out fight and get rejected. I mean, it's not even like a refactor this, or I'd like this coded a slightly different way. It's just, no, we don't care. You're not getting it, and that's I think.
And perhaps we need to work with. So it's not just Moshe. There's also who brought this on.
Claudia Christe.
Yeah. Who was sort of going to maintain this going forward, I think. And I've seen over the last 9-12 months them both sort of asking each other questions. So, but I also know that there's a bias towards not wanting to use config entities, and this has nothing to do with config entities at all. And I would want to be very clear that this is nothing to do with config entities. I know I've been an advocate of them for a while. For about the last year, I've started to back away from that a little bit because it's easier to put comments in YAML plugin files that are very, 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 very helpful when developing these migrations. But then I still sort of lump them together with tags and groups because I'm pulling these things from various data sources, like from that database and that database. And on this system here, I don't have access, I'm on myself on
so,
and I don't have access to it. So that's what builds the network, but it's nothing to do with config entities.
The command works perfectly fine with committed entities. It's the group config entity and option and extension that Migrate Plus provides, which they won't put in there because that stuff doesn't exist in core. And Benji's attempt to try and solve that was not even to put this thing that supports contrib directly in Drush. It was just to give us a hook so that we could do an alter, right? Am I right?
No, it was. Is that it?
It wasn't even a new hook. It was just taking the argument and option handling and moving it out of the main command function into an init hook.
Okay.
So that they'd separate the argument processing from the main command and give us a chance to affect the arguments before they get to the main command.
Let me see what I can find out from talking with Moshe to see if it's just a personality conflict here, or if he's just confused or what.
Option 2, we bring groups into core and then say, look, this is a core thing. We need to support it because it's in core. I know, that's obviously not.
No, that's not actually even that crazy, honestly.
Well, we couldn't support them because they're implemented as config. And I mean, we could find a different way to support them.
No, that's not actually, that's a brilliant idea because
it could still be config entities, actually.
We've actually had people asking about for some time how to share configuration. There's a core issue for some time.
Yes. Yeah, there is.
And this is the way that's been sort of tried and tested for a while.
My assumption is that his main issue with adding group support in there is because it doesn't support core, it supports contrib.
No, but we should be willing to make whatever we're building as extensible as possible within reason.
Right.
Maybe core Drush doesn't want it, but that doesn't mean that, I don't know, I've been pretty deep in the weeds the last few weeks with Migrate, including building new Drush commands. So being able to extend Drush migrate import to have my own sort of flavor of it that does oddball syncing is really kind of maybe useful, right?
Which is what that pull request was attempting to do. It was just giving us place so that we could then go override it in contrib.
Right.
We weren't trying to add contrib arguments into core Drush. We were just trying to make sure we had a place where we could override and add them in on the contrib side. And you know what?
Okay.
Maybe that is part of it. Maybe it's a communication issue. The title of the pull request, and I know you were affecting those commands specifically. I don't know. Maybe it just, he did seem very much focused on the group option and not that being something he wanted to deal with, as opposed to, what the pull request actually was, which was a refactoring to allow the commands to be extended from contrib. Never mind the group options, doesn't matter. It was just a refactoring to make them more extensible. And that shouldn't need a ton of justification if there's no performance hits, in the refactoring. So, I mean, maybe he didn't understand that. I never talked to him in real time. It was always just over the messages in the PRs. So,
Well, his final comment when he closed it was, true, the PR does not introduce another grouping mechanism. I mean that the justification for the PR is we need another grouping mechanism. And
No, it has nothing to do with
that's
grouping
not compelling enough.
mechanism. No, it's
the
has nothing.
justification on the PR is we need to extend those commands a bit in contrib, and we need to spot, we need to have the ability to do that. It doesn't have
Yeah.
anything to do with the grouping mechanism.
No, it doesn't. We have other things we're trying to do here. So let me see what I can do. Sorry that I was clueless that the conversation was going on, because I actually could have helped maybe. Do we want to change topics?
I'd like to first say that I support Lucas's idea to go talk to Josh people.
I'm all for it. Yeah.
I no promise.
Yeah,
Right,
certainly.
well,
If we have a way to get back to cooperation, I would love it. I tried really hard in my comments on this pull request not to be antagonistic.
No, Moshe is a great guy. Just
Yes.
very busy and yeah. So anyways.
One thing related to that, though, Lucas, you mentioned there was an issue in core about sharing configuration for the, can you, if you find it, let me know. I can't find it.
Drupal. YAML. I'll look for it.
Yeah, just pass it along when you find it. That's right.
That was in and out of contrib for a while, so it might actually be back in contrib. I'd have to look.
Okay. All right. Okay. We'll just, it'll resurface.
You actually looked at it for a while. It was the one that Mike Ryan had mentioned, some type of a C tool, C programming language.
Oh, that one.
Oh.
So a process plugin to reuse.
Oh, that one.
Or some solution to reuse process pipelines.
Configuration, process pipelines. That's not the same as reusing configuration, yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah, I take your point. Yes, it's in Migrate Tools somewhere, that one.
Okay.
That's enough. I can find it and resolve them. Let me refresh my memory.
It doesn't have the word pipeline, but what does it have?
Sorry, no.
What was our next topic? That was an intriguing one.
I think the only other thing that was brought up was this issue about how tests sometimes have serialization failures when as a failure mode if the test is broken while you're developing it.
I was glancing at it. Azuka assigned it to himself. He hasn't done anything on it in forever. Maybe he just didn't assign it.
Yeah, and there's a meta for it as well.
Yeah, 4 months ago, he put something up with a failing patch and then assigned it back to himself. Oh wait, and then can't. Yeah, he must have got stuck. All right, so unassign Hazuka at the very least, because he said he gave up and can't do a simple fix.
There's also work on the meta issue as well.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do any kind of testing or whatever. But
Is this intermittent?
no, no.
Yeah, no, it looks like it's. I haven't read through it all, but as I understand it, because of the way the stack trace is now with PHP unit, that when the exception handler tries to save the stack trace, it throws another exception, and then that exception is the one that ends up getting thrown and stored, and what you see when you're running the tests. So we need to. I don't know what Hazuka was trying to do, but we definitely need to.
So if a
Try and figure out
migration has
I don't
an
think it's a
issue-
migration issue, right? I think this is just a core Drupal PHP unit issue.
Well, it looked like there was I saw early on array walk versus why not use for each? Or is that
Yeah, I assume
Oh, yeah, that
was
helps.
in.
That's in the meta issue.
I got to sit through and read it. Maybe this is only happening when the error is throwing in certain places then, and one of them is migrate. I got to sit and read through this. I don't know.
Yeah, but it adds a whole lot of extra time to fix something, and it's just like I said, it really
this
is
makes-
off-putting.
Right.
This makes the test run longer?
No,
No,
It
it
takes
just means the
debugging a
error
lot
that gets
longer.
thrown. Yeah, the error that gets thrown has nothing to do with the error that was actually thrown in the test. It's the error that's thrown when the test is trying to clean up after itself that you see, instead of the actual error that the test should have thrown. So
Okay.
so from my standpoint as a developer, when I see that error,
Right.
the only choice I have is to more or less single step through the test and kind
Right,
of guess where it's happening.
if all the tests are passing, this doesn't show up. It's only when you're developing and you write a test and it fails that you then would like to see what failed so you can fix it, and you can't right now. So yeah.
Got it.
You keep
Got it.
saying write a test. It's not happening when you write a test. You could make a change in migrate that causes an existing test to fail.
Yeah, same thing.
So,
Right.
I mean, I can force this error quite easily. I know places to break.
Right. Yeah. If you go
To
make
change,
a change
rather.
somewhere in the code and post it and then run the test suite and it says 19 errors and they all just say cannot serialize closure,
Yeah.
it doesn't tell you what you got to do. You then have to go download it, run it, xdebug, step through it, like try to figure out where it was, that's the problem. So it's a developer issue.
Because I know migrate, I can figure it out because I'm pretty well sure where it's going to come from. But somebody else facing this, it would just be horrible.
Right.
Okay.
They're not easy to find.
I posted another issue we could discuss
Okay.
in Zoom chat. It's let me get it up. It's 268-8297. This has only been around since 6 years ago.
I was gonna say,
Oh, yeah.
This is definitely a deja vu feeling.
Yeah. So the title is File Migration Slow Down and Eat More and More Memory. And when Lears jumped in here a few days ago and suggested this might be critical, I'm not sure, because my definition of critical tends to be like always happens and data loss or something along those lines. But not too concerned about triage here. My thought though is, and I shared this privately with Victoria and in a Slack chat on a recent large migration, and then a few days ago a few days after that, Victoria,
Mhm.
this one came through my inbox, and I was thinking, could we
Ah.
solve this by like doing better memory management? So there's a memory management issue as well that and this one might actually be postponed on,
Right.
or maybe not. I don't.
Well,
So what that
I'd love to
did,
get the memory management done.
yes.
Right.
So let me kind of
Yeah,
talk
your
through
comment
what.
57 postpones it on exactly that issue.
Okay.
right.
So yeah, perfect. So I put a
I
comment
swear to
then,
gosh,
maybe
Win
even
thinks
before that.
every issue is critical. Any issue that affects Win is critical.
It's not critical. No, we should downgrade it. Yes.
This is not critical. There's a workaround. Get a bigger computer with more RAM and
So,
disable
no, actually,
disable the.
honestly though, my comments from
Yeah.
eight days before that were over in the other memory issue. It is not necessarily solvable by throwing more memory. It's best solved actually by artificially limiting the amount of memory that you're giving to the migration. So what we found was, and it was interesting, you're moving over 1.8 something million users with lots of field references, and you're processing all of these things and their profile data and all, and we would see the memory go from 1 gig to 2 gig to 3 gig to 4 gig over time, right? And what my hack patch ended up being was, rather than looking at what my INI memory limit was, I just set it to 1.2 gig. It would go up to that limit, and then it would drop from 1 point something gig down to like 30 megabytes. And then over the course of the next 20, 60, 120 minutes, it would go back up to that thing, and then it would drop again. And we kept jumping between high and then low.
Because we're reclaiming it, or because
yeah, we're reclaiming it, and all of the memory reclamation was because of entity cache. Entity cache for inserts is quite pointless because you insert a user and you never look at it again.
right?
And the memory of Drush and of the server, this is one of those XL, triple XL, 5XL, whatever's on AWS. It wasn't a small machine. PM was freaking out that we're spending so many dollars an hour to run this thing. But the Drush would still die. The only way to get the migration to finish through to completion was artificially limit our memory. How many of us have worked also with Pantheon and run away with migrations? This also seems like possibly something that we could do for Pantheon migrations. So it needs to be injectable. We need to be able to tell the migrate system, don't use this much. And it's going to depend on what you're migrating. A lot of cases, it's going to be probably even less than 100 or 200 meg, but you're going to keep going up there and reclaim and keep going up and then reclaim. So, maybe something a little higher. But then once you go to Pantheon, you probably do want it to be somewhere in the 100 and something range. So I just wanted to bring that up in the context of the file memory thing. That might make it a little bit more I assume with files that we would see some benefit from approach like this.
I wonder if it hits the file migration most just because you're usually migrating a bajillion files that 20 images per page, and then fewer pages, and it just happens to be the one with the most.
No, because file migration, D7 file migration has nothing to do with nodes. It's all to do with just pull file download
Right.
it,
But I wonder
create a file entity. I don't know.
if it's just the biggest one with most records and most D7 migrations. I feel like it
No,
is pretty
is
big.
it?
It's been a while since I've done a D7 migration. I've been migrating from things that aren't Drupal 7 as of late, which is even more fun.
Could be that is possible.
Well, because I'm wondering if we don't just, tell the entity cache to lose its record when we save something in the destinations. Like we can try and stop the. I mean, because we
Well, you
don't
can
need
do
the.
on, but then that becomes more complicated to like, because you can't really swap things. Well, can you really easily swap things out for only a migration? Because by the time you do the entity load or whatever, you don't have enough context to know that my whole operation of PHP here started from migrate executable.
I don't know. I'm just brainstorming.
I'm just
You might
thinking
be
service
right.
processor type hacking happens pretty. There's no way. There's no good state to know. Right now, you're running a migration in this thread, because how many times are you running a migration in a cron job where other people are also creating new blog posts? Like that's a tricky problem. But the real solution would be to sort of do a service swap out for entity cache to go to a null cache, which is totally what Drupal could do. And if I had my 1 point something million again, I would, and I wasn't in the middle of it, I would probably have thought about like just doing that.
But
for
I
the
mean,
kick.
you can do that just in the executable at the beginning of the import. Swap the entity cache out from the container with a fake one, and then at the end of it, put the real one back.
No, because we don't actually access entity cache from the executable.
I know, but if you
It's not
replace it in the
injected.
container, then when the entity system tries to load it, it will load the fake one.
Can you swap out from the container after the container has been built?
I believe so. I haven't messed around with Symfony 5 or 6, and I know they like to lock things down, so I'm not sure if it's still possible. But the catch being though, if it's built and cached, the entity storage already with the old one, then the entity storage may already have the old one, the original entity cache. You'd have to do it in the right spot for sure. And I know what you're saying. It is really tricky to, in a big init hook, know that we are loading this process purely to run a migration. I mean, Drush could somehow flag it. If you're running it through Drush, you ought to be able to tell the bootstrap that you need a fake entity cache.
But we don't own Drush.
Oops.
Migrate
Gosh
anymore.
darn it. Oh, we can't fix it in Drush. Oh, gosh. You know what? Never mind. We'll write this in the issue and just tell Wim we can't fix it because we don't control Drush anymore. So
But that's a good point. Like we could swap it out in a Drush phase. Because I think in the case of Drush, it doesn't really care about having entity cache either.
I mean, at worst case, not having the entity cache or having having a fake entity cache that just always fails and says it doesn't have it, at worst is going to slow things down a bit because it'll go back to the database for something it might otherwise not have needed to. But if the trade-off of that is we're not sucking down memory.
Entity cache goes into a back end of memory right now. It's a memory cache.
Right.
For those that hadn't looked at it recently, it doesn't go to even Redis or any of its default is memory.
Right.
It doesn't go to the default bin. So anyway, that was just my thought about this file migration thing. Is one, critical seems a little bit high. And the other was, I wonder if we could solve all of those problems just by fixing memory management a little bit. One thing that got landed maybe 6-12 months ago, independent of all of this, was when we were flushing cache, if you hit that 85% limit from core, we that cache flush was not actually working. It wasn't actually flushing cache.
That sounds familiar.
And that landed.
It was invalidating cache rather than flushing it, right?
Yeah, that sounds right. So, you know, things have changed since this opened 6 years ago. And I wonder if we combine these two things, I should probably write it up and post that back to Wims because he seems to have time.
Well, we also got the very last post, and the issue that Wim just marked critical that isn't critical is that expect news soon. There's people looking in to try and find the core root cause of what's sucking up the memory. So, I mean, I don't think I'm subscribed to this one. I'm going to subscribe because I'm kind of curious as to what he finds out, but I'll give him a couple of weeks to look into it now.
For the memory management?
No, the file migration.
Yeah, the one that you linked to.
That one I might have gotten too aggressive. Like I moved it out to an. Did I do it?
Well, no, I'm sorry. The one on Wims is the postponed one. Yeah, the one that you postponed it on, I will follow that too. That one is that one's not on Wims.
Yeah, I can say about the moving the memory management from the executable to an event subscriber. The main thing holding that one up is how to test it. And I think it was Alex Pott was pretty firm that the only way to test it honestly is to actually do it in a low memory situation. Like you have to grab some huge chunk of the available memory and make it work with what's
given
left.
what we just talked about though, with memory entity cache and all that, the VF, what's the virtual file system thing that we use when tests? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
What is that called? There's a virtual file system that you can use to like generate fake files. I'd used it in Migrate CSV. It's a dependency in Composer JSON. What is it called? Core. Let's see. Where is it?
Yeah, if you look at my comment number 86 on the
Okay.
memory management issue, that's where I quote, and it was Alex Scott.
VFS stream. Mikey 176 ZFS stream. So ZFS stream, you can create arbitrary files of 1 gig size, and they look and feel like files. If we did that with a file migration, and we quote downloaded a 1 gig file, it's going to be pretty quick, but we're going to run out of memory, wouldn't we? Maybe. Something to at least think through.
Anyway, we are past the end of the hour, and I have to get to other stuff.
Okay.
Well, it was good catching up with all you guys. I'm surprised we didn't normally get a few people from the channel in these. If I say normally, this is like the second or third one we've really done quarterly.
Maybe
just
everyone's
exhausted
at
from
DrupalCon
DrupalCon. Yeah, I was just going to say DrupalCon Europe, they're probably burnt out.
Did anyone attend virtually?
I didn't this year. My expense account. I'm saving up to go to Portland. I get a stipend each month, and like I'm just trying to max that account out so I can go to Portland.
I did the last 2 European ones and time zones.
I did last year.
Yes.
I did it last year. Yeah, and then
Oh, you know something about time zones, Vicky?
Monday I got up at 3 a.m.
And the Dateline, there's a wobbly in there too.
Yep.
So how's it for all you guys in the past?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
Yeah.
still Thursday for me.
Oh yeah.
Lucas,
About time for
I'd be
dinner.
keen to work on that memory management issue. I'd like to get
Okay.
that one finished, but I don't know what the next step is. So if you could nudge me or something.
Okay, let me put a comment in there. If I'll put a comment in there, and then I'll try to put a comment in the file memory one too.
Or should I pursue talking to Alex Pott about how to write the test he talks about? Since I'm not sure how to do that.
Where's his? Let me read through it a little bit. And
My
Okay.
comment 86 quotes Alex Pott. I think that's a good place to
Yeah.
look.
okay,
My
Yes.
understanding is that that's what's hanging up that issue.
Yes.
okay.
And if you want to stay in chat, Lucas, that's cool.
No, I don't mind sticking around for a couple of minutes.
Okay.
But Benji, if you need to run, it's probably what 6 o'clock for you.
6 o'clock.
Yeah, I'm out too. I need to go pop dinner in
Okay.
the oven. Well, good to see you guys.
You too.
I'll
Ciao,
catch
everyone.
up with you later. Bye.
Enohara.
Oh, do we want to? What is, just for the sake of the recording? What's the next date officially? Is January? Let's see what it would be.
First or
Date
second
in January.
Tuesday in January.
January January 13th.
That's the second, right? Or is it the third?
Oh wait, yeah. January 2022. The first evening meeting in January is the 13th, from what I see.
Okay.
January 13th.
Yeah, the 6th
You
is
mean the
early.
14th?
13th.
Yeah, the 14th if you're Vicky, but the 13th for normal people.
This is why I like UTC.
Right. Yeah, I don't have the conversion. for that.
Normal. Excuse me. I think we have to work on the definition of normal.
That one. The 2,100 hours on the 13th. 2,100 hours UTC on the 13th, I think it is. Maybe it's 21. I don't know. We changed.
I know.
Somewhere around there, give or take.
Benji, are we still recording?
Yes, I can snip off the end if you like.
I was just going to ask, are you busy these days?
No, I killed off my project from hell, so I'm taking it easy this week.
Oh.
Only working 5 or 6 hour days.
Oh. Okay. I think
Well,
last
good
time
on
we
you.
talked to you were in between projects or something. So wanted to make sure you were fully employed.
Oh yeah, I am fully employed. And we had a project from hell defined as one where we're working and the client isn't paying us for our hours and there's no end in sight.
Oh, wow.
But we
that's
finally
weird.
reached the end. The other thing, if we're not strictly talking about migration, I want to tell you the other thing I'm doing for Drupal Contrib, which is creating a page with all the permissions just for a particular content type, for example. So when you edit the article content type, you have manage fields, manage display, manage form display. Now you also have a tab for manage permissions.
Oh, is that what that is? Right.
What
I saw the
is that-
title.
Is that a core?
It's a core patch.
Will that include translations? Permission?
If there are permissions, if there are translation permissions specific to the bundle, yes, it will include them. And it's not just for nodes, it also works for media. And when
Okay,
they
any
get the patch
entity
in
type?
to add permissions for block types, it'll handle those too.
How does it know which permissions?
Aha.
Because I don't think core node was very standard about how it called its permissions. Like that was
Because Remember, Vicky, you and I were working on the issue for migrating permissions and
Mhm.
those that don't exist. And Alex
Oh yeah,
Pott
I have to get
insisted
back
that
to that actually. Yes.
we first handle the other issue, which dealt with that, not just for migrate, but for all of Drupal. That
Yes,
issue
that's right.
was committed several months ago, and it adds dependencies to permissions. So now a permission knows what config items it depends on. And if you bang on the config dependency system enough, you can find all the permissions that depend on a particular bundle.
Okay, that kind of makes sense now. Now, is the dependencies stuff accurate?
If you were to delete the content type or the bundle, you would get a confirmation screen saying, we're going to scrap all of these other config entities too. That's the list I go after.
Okay. Okay. And I remember something with entity permissions being quite, if you dealt with anything that was built off of entity.module, then it follows a standard permission naming scheme. But node and taxonomy, well, node was particularly egregious.
I don't care about the names.
I also think routes, maybe I'm mixing it up with routes as well. But I could be wrong. The standard name for what a route is, like the add route versus the edit route versus the add form. Anyways.
All right, guys, I'm gonna go put dinner in the oven. I'll catch up with you guys later.
Okay.
Good to see everybody.
Bye, Mike.
Bye, Mike.